Hi there. Today is day one of our 4-day challenge. And this 4-day challenge is called the B.O.S.S challenge. It's a series of trainings that we're going to do live together. And this series of trainings have the objective that you tap into the possibilities of all that you can become. And we will go deeper into that through the series, but you will see. And then we approach this with a holistic methodology. So that's meant that it's a methodology that combines both the more scientific aspect of the neuroscience. I'm a former science teacher and I specialize in neuroscience, and it helped me a lot to get the best out of my students. But then I've also I've also worked through then my own personal and professional development. I've tapped into the energy work and shadow work, inner child work, and a spiritual work. And of course, then talking about the emotional mind too. So we have the physical, we have the mind, we have the emotions, and then we have the energy slash spiritual concept, depending on what you feel more aligned with. And today we're starting with the more neuroscientific part. Who am I? Okay, because for those of you who don't know me, some of you might know me personally, or know me as a former client, but many of you don't know me. So a small introduction of myself. I'm Marisa Ruiz. I'm a transformational coach. As you can hear, I'm not English speaking as a mother tongue. I'm Spanish speaking. And my own story waves together, as it happens many times, waves together with my professional story. And as I said before, I'm a former science teacher, and I suffer from chronic stress anxiety for many years. And it led me to a burnout. In that burnout was like the turning point of not of realizing that I wasn't living in alignment with who I really was. Meant to say that I was living a life that was more of what I thought that others wanted from me or expected from me. So then I tapped more into this concept of going inward to look for the answers, because for my whole life, I had been looking for the answers outside for everything, for my happiness and well-being. And then through this burnout, I had kind of like I met a dead end in a sense. Okay, I can't go further, or I don't want to go further. That's not what I want to teach my children. That's how you lead life. And then I started making big changes and started working a lot on myself. And that led me to unblock a very deeply traumatic experience that I had when I was a child. I was sexually abused from a very early age. I was just 4 years old when it started. It was in the academic sector. It wasn't in the family one. And it was deeply traumatic because the person was a sadist. So it was very painful at all levels that you can imagine. And that unlocking from that traumatic experience that I had been able to forget for over 30 years, what was then open up my connection to the energy work and also the spiritual work. And that has all then combined. And that's the approach that I work with my clients and getting amazing results. And there I want you to tap into then what you are capable of. So let me know if you have questions. Of course, I have my devices here so that I can check into your questions. And if I can't do it live, I promise to you, I will then write them afterwards and answer them afterwards. Because now what I want to is give you the first piece of this training, and it's the more neuroscientific part. My first question to you is, how many brains do you think that we have? Tap and write down the numbers. When I ask these questions at workshops or at talks that I hold, what usually comes is that people are a bit like surprised, like, what do you mean? How many brains? We have one, right? And that's when I say, well, do you remember in natural science back in the day when you were little and you were learning about, the Paleolithical times and the Neanderthal men and women and the different homos that we've been, right? We could all see how we've changed throughout the time, how our physical body and also our faces had changed, that we didn't look like from the beginning of the homos to the actual life, right? So pretty much the same happened with our brain. Our brain has evolved as much as we have been evolved. The thing is that it's pretty new that people know that. So how many brains do we have? Well, to put it very simple, usually we talk about three brains. The primitive one, that's the one that has been with us for the longest time, and that's very basic, and that's where the flight, freeze, and flight, freeze, and fight response comes from. In psychology, they add a fourth one, which is appease others. And then the emotional brain develop. That makes us that we have such a wide range of emotions. And the last one was the human brain. So as you see, that's kind of like the newest one, and that's even the last one that finishes. And the brain takes quite a while to finish up. You know how long till it's done? By the ages of between 28 and 32. So yeah, that's how complex and complicated our brain is. Now, back into that, I'm gonna send you on the comments a PDF, and that's for the homework. You're gonna see very clear there are the different brains that are portraying there, and explained how the types of personalities, kind of like we all have Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and everything in between. We all do. Okay, like even anyone you find on the street does. That's why we can all be our best versions and our worst version. And most of the time, we're being very unconscious. So it depends on the outer circumstances. And what I want you to know is that it can so depend on you. I can feel the difference. I've suffered from anxiety and stress, and chronic stress, as I said before, for a really, really long time, for many years. Now we have the pandemic. There is a lot going on in my life. It's not easy. I could go into it, but not necessary. Just take my word for that. Not very easy, but I'm in the best place I've ever been in my life. And it's because I choose to, and I know how to. And I'm not very special. That's something you can do too. Okay? So let me now show you. You will have the PDF, and that will you be able to see it better and do the homework. But I want to give you now the introduction, and for that, I'm bringing on. Ta-da! I've already started. For the timing. Let me see how it shows with. Okay, it shows pretty well. I didn't know if maybe Facebook was gonna show the things upside down. So let me know with hearts and likes if this is resonating with you and this is coming through, okay? So if we imagine this is your brain, and we can divide it in pieces like a pie. And this part, this from the beginning, would be equal to this part. Let's say the lower, more inferior part of your brain. And this side would be then this one, the one that is kind of like, on the front, on the top of your brain. So this one is the primitive brain one. Okay, this one I'm gonna put the primitive brain, PB. From the primitive brain, as we know, is the flight, or freeze response. It's getting difficult to say it. There's so many F's. And the appease others also. Okay, that's kind of like this part has been the longest with us. So there is the problem that we do have kind of like a small arrow from the moment we're born that goes into that direction. Actually, children between the 0 and 2, hi Candice, so nice to see you. So children from the eyes from 0 to 2, they live here in the primitive brain. And then later on, they live here. And this one is the limbic brain. Limbic brain equals emotional, okay? Here we have the emotion. And that's where children live approximately till the age of 7. So that's also good for mothers and parents to know, so that we can really be accurate with what we expect from our kids. Then we have the wait and see brain. This is this one. That's the wait and see brain. I'm going to put it here, wait and see. The wait and see brain, it's pretty much as the word says. It's a brain. Hi, Arantxa. So good to see you too. And yes, please say hi, because I see it here. Great. So this brain is kind of like, I'm sure you've been, I mean, you've all been there. The primitive brain is the one that is reactive. It's the one that makes you, scream or become louder, or even get like really, or block, that you block and that you can't talk. And then afterwards you go home and you're like, I should have said this. And okay, that's the primitive brain. Emotional brain, all the colors of the emotions are there. So it's pretty much, they're very, very much linked. When we are here, if we don't have the tools and if we don't have the self, kind of like self-regulation, we go very easily here. Okay, of course, in the negative emotions, because the positive emotions we don't, but in the negative ones we go very easily into the reactive. When we are in the wait and see brain, which is kind of like here, the neocortex. Hi Daria, nice to see you, my dear. And so good to see you all here. And then the wait and see brain, that's the one that say, the word in Prichima says it, that's where you are and you kind of like, you come to a new place and you are like kind of checking, observing everyone, observing how they behave. And then depending on how they behave, you behave one way or the other. So for example, you go to a party, you don't know many people, and you go inside and like you check, and then everyone is like really cold and not really talking to each other, and holding to their beers, kind of stiff. And when you're in wait and see, then you kind of blend in, doing the same. And but if the same person goes into a party and everybody's like, woo, going wild, going to the wait and see, it's gonna blend in. So that means that from that brain, we depend completely on the environment and on the outer circumstances. Up to now, on all three, okay? And now here comes, let's say, the more fun part of the brains. I mean, they're all important. They're all really important. Here we have the experimenter. The experimenter. That's where we get more creative, when we get more, when we want to experiment more, when we want to try new things. And the last one, and the most difficult one, and this is the one where the less people spend, the less time, it's the co-creator. Here, empathy lives here. The more complex things that we can do, like abstract reasoning and logic thinking, it's all located here. So that's like the more complex version of ourselves. And the co-creator is because here, that's where we create new meanings, where we go into, when we're here, it's like everything is a no, when any change comes from this part, we're like, no, I'm scared. No. And then try to, if we don't have the self-regulation, we go easily into buying into whatever that part of the brain is telling us, you're not capable, or you're not good enough, or you don't deserve it, you're not worthy, blah, 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 and all that. When you are in the co-creator, that's not the talk of the co-creator part. The co-creator says, oh, how can you get the skills to do that? How can you learn to do that? What would you need? Which help would you get? That's the kind of dialogue that this brain has with you. So, question to you. Around 90%, 90 of the population spends the time, and now I'm asking you, in which areas do you think most people spend the most time? Since it's a bit of delay, I'm going to answer already. 90% of the population, we spend the time here in the inferior parts. There is actually even a very well and very deep done research from the University of Stanford that proves that 90%, yeah, Carmen says A, yes, that 90% of the people, of the conversations we have fail. 90% of the conversations fail. And that's because we mostly talk from this part. So we go easily into power struggle, into wanting to convince the other, into wanting to be right. And the thing is that what triggers which part? I already said a little bit. What do you think triggers that? Communication. The communication. And communication, remember, this is very important. If there's one thing that I want you to remember today, is this. Communication is always a two-sided road, always. So it's about the intra-communication, how you communicate with yourself, and the intercommunication, how you communicate with others. So, for example, I'm pretty well trained. Okay, that's my job. Otherwise, it would be, I'm pretty well trained. So I spend a lot of time here. Okay, I can be here and I can be as happy as a buzzing bee, but somebody I don't know comes from the street, looks at me, and starts insulting me. Automatically, I will, at least for a shorter moment, I will boom, go there. Why? Of course, because my brain interprets that as a threat. Somebody's coming to threaten me. So boom, this one goes here. Why? Because from the primitive brain, this is the brain you want to have if somebody attacks you, or if a lion is wanting to get you. That's the primitive brain. You want that. You know, if in a dark corner somebody comes with a knife, that's the one. Why? Because adrenaline, cortisol, you become superhuman physically. But here, dumb, completely dumb. Here, we locked our best way of thinking, our best way of analyzing and everything. So somebody's coming to get you. You want that one. You're having struggles in your partnership. You don't want that one going on. You want that one, so that you can find solutions, so that you have an assertive communication, so that you don't fall into power struggles, wanting to be right and wanting to convince the other. All right? So those are the different parts of the brain. And the homework for you is, I'm going to give you now the PDF. And there you will see it's even more, a little bit more explained even that we've done here, so that you have both the explanation now from the live plus the explanation on the PDF. Check which brain or which brains, because it might be just not just one, but which brains are more active there. I'm going to give you a personal example. When I was going through what I ended up in the burnout, okay, when I was like literally burning out, I got to a point where I could hold the mask when being at work. So when I was at work, I could be more around here, wait and see, and experimenter, because I did experiment a lot at work. But I was so overwhelmed, I was so tired, I was so exhausted, I had so much anxiety that the masks couldn't hold for very long. So where do you think they fall off? Of course, they fall off with the ones you know the most and the ones you love and the ones you trust the most. So when I was at home with my family, with my partner, with my kids, I was so easily here. Okay, so it's very important that you check and you have like this overview of where you're at. And then I want you to ask you two questions while you have done that. Is what benefits or disadvantages is that part of the brain that is the one that is most active in that area of your life, for example, in the family area or at work? What benefits is it bringing you and what disadvantages is it bringing you? And then once you've answered the question, ask yourself, is that what I want? So do I want to stay that way or do you want to change something? Okay. So that will be it for day one. We've got it.